if you like betting on golf, but everyone that you back misses the cut. Get some experts involved with all the stats and the tips and so much more, 'cause it's the golf betting system, the golf betting system, it's the golf betting system podcast.
Greetings and welcome to the Golf Betting System podcast. It's episode 386. This is our 2026 Valspar Championship and Hainan Classic tips podcast. Barry O'Hanrahan and Paul Williams join me, Steve Bamford, to discuss this week's PGA and DP World Tour action. Good morning, gents.
Morning, guys.
Morning, guys.
This podcast is for listeners of 18 and above. Please be gamble aware. You can visit gambleaware.org for more information. And of course, please bet responsibly. Visit our world-famous golf betting system website where we have in-depth betting previews for both the Valspar and the Hainan. We've got Paul has been in the stats lab pulling together this week's data. We've got Copperhead course strokes gained rankings. We've got detailed course form, player form and combi sheets, plus new and old predictor models for both the PGA and DP World Tour action this week. All of our content is available completely free of charge. There is no paywall or registration required. On X, you can follow Barry at A Good Talk Golf. Paul is at Golf Betting. I am at Bamford Golf. And on Bluesky, search for Steve Bamford and Paul Williams. Subscribe to the Steve Bamford Golf YouTube channel, where this podcast is available each and every week. If you're listening to this podcast on there, please press that like button. Now, you guys as listeners power this podcast, so we need your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts as ever. For those of you who leave a review, I will read them out at the start of a future show. As I always say, leave your name and where you are in the review. This one's entitled, chaps, Si Woo Kim. Good day. Big Gerry here, listening from Newfoundland, Canada, originally from Ireland. Been listening for nearly a year now. Love the show and how it's presented. It's easy to follow and structured. Keep up the good work, and here's to a Si Woo Kim win soon. Thank you, Big Gerry, for your 5-star review. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, cheers, Gerry. Thanks for that.
Cheers, Gerry. Yeah, we'd love to see Siwoo win. He's fun. He's playing some good golf.
I'd like to have seen him win last week, but that wasn't going to happen.
Are we going into this? Are we doing the?
Let's not jump there yet. But we need a Bermuda grass golf course for Siwoo, clearly.
Yep.
What was I going to say? Oh yes, Gerry's review is the last in our reservoir. So write us a 5-star review. Again, haven't had one from Ireland recently. Haven't had one from the UK. Clearly, Gerry was in Canada. Give us a review, and I'm sure you're in a very good chance for it to be read out next week on the episode 387. So, yeah, give us a 5-star review. That would be much appreciated, listeners. Right. I said to my wife before she left for work this morning, I said, I think this week's podcast is going to be very much a therapy session. And I think it's good to talk, isn't it? You know, it's good for men to talk. It's don't get stuff bottled up inside. We have to chat. We have to communicate. And I think the Players' Championship is a prime example of that, because let's just go through the. Let's just go. I've made some notes here, and we were discussing this ad nauseum last week on the Players podcast. By the way, I'm sure that there was was Austin Smotherman mentioned at any point as a decent long shot? Did I throw his name in there? I know I threw Joel Damon in there and missed the cut.
Yeah, I backed Joel. I know that I didn't say Smotherman.
I should have gone back and checked, but
okay.
I'm sure there's someone in there we mentioned at a big price that got involved at some point. But anyway, let's go through the basics here. Firstly, let's say congratulations to Cam Young backers. He was as large as 35-1 on Monday prices, first show, Cam Young. So 14 to 1 McIlroy, 20 to 1 Thomas, 33 to 1 Smith. These are previous winners. 11 to 1 Scheffler, 11 to 2 favourite Scheffler, 9 to 1 McIlroy. We've now got 35 to 1 Cam Young. So he was very much in that Cam Smith bracket. We focused intently last week, or I did, on official World Golf Ranking top 10 players, because up until this point, McIlroy 6, Thomas 3, Smith 10, Scheffler 2, Scheffler 1, McIlroy 2, Cam Young 15. And then, of course, Barry, and you've got me into this over the last 12, 18 months, the mention of data golf, and I use it now a hell of a lot, data golf and the rankings and their data and whatever. This was the real killer when you actually look at this retrospectively. So this is the data golf ranking of player championship winners going back to 2019 when they moved the course. They moved the championship from May to March. McIlroy 3, Thomas 6, Smith 8, Scheffler 3, Scheffler 1, McIlroy 2, Cam Young 7. So that data golf top 10 ranking train is very much still in play next year. I'm kind of saying all this just for like listener notes and also for my own notes. Hopefully I'll go back and listen to the podcast again the week before the players in 2027.
Just for the listeners, this is how Steve does his own therapy. Just talks out the numbers.
Yeah.
Now,
Goes back and listens to himself from last year.
Young was the second biggest priced player in the data golf top 10. Henley was 40 to 1. As you know, he's on my post-it note of doom. I'm never backing him. Young and the aforementioned Siwoo Kim were both 35 to 1. So, Paul, let's go through this narrative in terms of, you were, I believe, on Robert McIntyre.
Yep.
He was in the world's top 10, correct?
He was, it was 7th or 8th, something like that.
I was on Sepp Strucker, who was in the world's top 10. I was on Chris Gotterup, who was in the world's top 10. Didn't really do a great deal. I was on, we're talking about a therapy session. I was on Colin Morikawa. Let's rewind to that on Thursday. OMG. And then, of course, we were all on Ludwig Oberg. I'm going to leave it. You two press on now because I've said far too much.
Too many names, too much sadness. Well, so for the second week in a row, I titanically failed at one and done. So I had 2 one and dones. This week I decided to split my resources. And I went with Colin Morikawa. So that was 2 weeks in a row I've had a player withdraw for a one and done, which I feel might be the unluckiest streak I'll ever go on in the competition like that.
Who was the one previously? Was it Jake Knapp for the listeners?
Oh, no, I took Rory. So I lost Rory and Morikawa in 2 weeks.
Nul point.
Anyway, yeah, 0. Bye. Adios. Anyway, I'd Ludwig, and things were feeling good. Paul, I think this is the part where you start the violin music in the background so the listeners know this is the sad part of the show. Do you know what? Things looked and felt like they weren't amazing on Sunday for the front 9, but it was fine. Like, he was getting through. You're like, okay, it's Sunday. It's a huge event. It's the players. He's not going to be feeling perfect. So there's a few iffy-ish shots going to happen. But yeah, he was tipping along, doing nicely, happy days. And then all hell broke loose on 11. Missed it by further right than anybody could possibly miss it there. Which is, and look, that's fine. You can hit a bad shot. What you can't do is compound it. So he made the bogey, grand, happy days. We can deal with that. And he gets to the next tee and for some mystical reason chooses driver. And I think that's the caddy, on the caddy right there. He needs to grab his player, give him a hug or shake him violently or figure out what he needs to do. But you cannot give him a club there that introduces potential for a double bogey on that tee when he is clearly not in a happy mental state from the previous hole. So it's the 12th that's the problem, not the 11th. The 11th can happen, but you've just compounded the problem by choosing driver on 12. And yeah, he was clearly, he was, obviously he was obviously super scrambled by that stage, and then just made a sloppy double bogey. And from then on, he's gone.
Game over.
So yeah, it was brutal.
I think you've also you kind of quickly just sped over another key moment, and Paul mentioned this to me yesterday. 18 on Saturday with a 4-shot lead.
I actually
and
think
he three putts.
I actually think the issue started slightly earlier than that on Saturday. Bear in mind how well he played on Friday. That 63 was just sublime. Clear low round of the day. I'd backed him first round leader, so it was 24 hours too late. But I guess the writing was on the wall at that point when you back someone first round leader and then they go and absolutely smoke it on the Friday. But I think the issues were actually from the 16th onward, because 16th, he middle of the fairway, that par 5, failed to make birdie, knocked it to about 8 feet on 17, missed the putt, and then 3 putt, as you said, on the final hole of the day. It was a speedy putt, but left himself too much work to do on the return putt.
So you think that shot on 16 on Saturday, which was he was 195 yards out. I remember the tee shot he hit, and I was licking my chops going, here's a birdie.
Yeah.
Happy days. And he yanked it so far left. So you think the next time he played a par 5 with water on the right, the 11th on Sunday, that's in his head. He's like, I can't bail out. Small little percentage demons kicking in a bit, or
potentially, yeah. I think at that point, and anyone who's backed him at that point, he makes birdie or eagle potentially from that position on 16. He's going to be trading at such a low price. I think he went down to 1.4 thereabouts anyway, and that was that was with how he'd played the final 3 holes. You could have been looking at a player who had maybe a 5-6 shot lead going into the final day of the Players, trading at 1.2, 1.15. And regardless of how you bet, what you do, you've got to ask yourself a question at that point. Do I take some of the money or all of the money and run at this point and just enjoy the final day? But
if that was the case, I'm taking that. Especially in Sawgrass, where you can go out and shoot 76, 77 without even thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the final 3 holes, if you make a mess of the par 5, can be so pivotal there because of the water involved. But yeah, I think that's where it's perhaps he almost saw the finish line that far too early, and then as you described from there, it was kind of trod water on the front 9 on Sunday, and then started to find the water on the back 9 on the final day. Kind of shades of Lowry there, as you say, with the error then being compounded with the second one, which ultimately took him out of the tournament.
You can absorb a bogey, but not the double. That's unforgivable.
Have you guys ever listened to Boots on the Ground and any of their content when they go to previous majors over the last couple of years? And you got Matt Gannon now. He does a lot of content over in the US for tournaments like the API Players and whatever. I don't know why, but I remember this. It might have been last year, or even the end of the year before. I mean, those guys spend a lot of time on golf courses, trudging the courses from Monday through to Wednesday night. And they pointed out on one show, and they've done it now consistently, that they don't rate Joe Scoverin at all as a caddy.
Okay.
And you're talking about wrong club selection on 12, and you needed a caddy to take control there and say, no, you're not going with driver here. You're going to just hit it down the middle with a 5-wood or whatever.
I mean, if that 12th is the 18th, like you're at the point where I'm snapping your driver, so you can't play it. To me, it's that big an error, like a tactical error or strategic error, whatever way you want to put it. You just pop something out there with an iron, long iron, not even much, like 5-iron, and give yourself a wedge. And he's a phenomenal wedge player. And you just say, you're guaranteed a par here. You're going to have a good look at birdie, and we've removed more risk. But you open up the chance for disaster to happen by taking driver after what happened on 11, and it went and happened. So anyway, I've said enough on Ludwig. He's a serious talent. He'll figure it out. I really think he will, and I think you need to have a couple of these like ouch losses to cement the lesson in, and he'll work it out. Hopefully his price drifts a bit so we can make up for the losses here. Listen, just to finish my tale of woe for the week. So Sunday, everything was looking very good. I had Hisatsune, 12 places each way. Like, oh, lovely stuff. Happy days. He made a bit of a mess on Saturday coming home as well. Then, was it Saturday? No, sorry. Sunday made a mess coming home. 3 bogeys in the last 5 holes, including a 3-putt from 17 feet on 17. So that dropped him outside the places. I had Victor Hovland, who shot a pretty tame 74, which was particularly bad because he made eagle on 2. So from then on, he was 4 over par for the rest of the round. So that was more money just melting away. And then Sahith Theegala, Steve, shoots 77 on Sunday.
I'm glad you're mentioning all these players that I've tipped up this week.
Well, listen, the bounce back ability factor, Steve. Just make sure you check their bounce back from shit rounds.
We've been down this road before.
That was that was a disappointing Sunday, to say the least, in terms of watching equity disappear. but it was
on
a really
Ludwig.
enjoyable tournament. Yeah.
I was on Ludwig, and I was also on Sepp Straka, who I think he got to, he was around about 10 under at one point. I know he was in the caption, bottom right.
He did get there, yeah.
And then he kind of, I wouldn't say melted, but hemorrhaged.
Steve, he got two doubles in the last 5 holes on a Sunday. He melted.
Yeah. Part each way return for him. And then I had Jacob Bridgman, thankfully, 55-1. And he was just basically making birdie, bogey, birdie, bogey, birdie, bogey, birdie, bogey the whole way around. Which was kind of okay, because he actually shot under par in the end. So he actually got me a full each way payout at 55-1. I had Ludwig's full each way at 28-1. So I got 3 in the each way places. So you can't complain really, but when you're on Ludwig, it just like kills you, it breaks you. It breaks you.
Yeah,
you had McIntyre, didn't you, on an each way?
Yeah, we did. He had a chance. What did he do? 3-putted. Which
we
one?
had it surrounded.
14. Yeah, he 3-putted 14, and then another one. He made a bogey from the middle of the par 5 on 16. So what was he, 3 off the lead in the end? You take that 3-putt away, birdie rather than a bogey on the 16th, and he's pushing Cam Young in a playoff. But look, that it's a tough course, tough finish. It's tough to win that tournament because it's got so much prestige, and that's why we shouldn't take anything away from the way that Cam Young finished that tournament, because that shot he played on 17 and then to smoke the drive as he did on 18 was just outstanding.
Yeah. This is the heaps of praise time. We're finished with the sad part of the podcast. He was awesome on those 2 holes in particular. Like, you need to go hit like elite level quality shots in highest pressure situation when the wind is humming, and he flushes both 17 tee shot with a wedge and his 18th tee shot. And that 18th tee shot is him just saying, I'm all in. Like, this is what I've got. Matt Fitzpatrick, what have you got? And he's got, after that tee shot at 18, for me, he has one hand on the trophy immediately before Fitzpatrick's hit his tee shot.
Yep.
It's just so much pressure piled on. And the fact that he was willing to risk getting the tee shot wrong himself, like, he was just putting it all on the line. And that's kind of a great mentality to have as a golfer, but also somebody, if you've backed him, you're like, fuck yeah, excuse the French, like, that's brilliant, because he's not just there to make some money, he's there to win a tournament. And if your guy's doing that and he fails by trying to hit the right shots, it's a little easier to accept, you know.
Yep.
But those are 2 seriously quality shots at that time. He is now big major factor. We have to
Oh,
consider
big
him for like the biggest tournaments because the mental barrier is broken. What's happened the last 2 years, lads? What, the Players' Champion's gone on to win the Masters?
Yep. He's a live runner. He is a live runner. I've seen the first entries for him in our majors competition for the Masters, and quite rightly so, I think. That shot, just going back to that drive on 18, that's the kind of shot that you can put into your memory banks, and every time in the future you need to pull out that one fantastic drive, you can go back and draw on that and say, look, I played this shot. I am capable of doing this.
Yeah.
And just execute again.
He might never hit a better drive than that. Moment and execution, but to have that there, to be able to access it and yet get close to hitting something similar to that again when needed, it's amazing.
I updated our Masters research piece last week, and it's been published on the website. I will put a link to it in the podcast description. And one of the key points there, Augusta favours hot form. McIlroy 2 wins, including Pebble Beach and Sawgrass. Scheffler 2 wins. Bay Hill and Sawgrass. John Rahm 23, 3 wins. Kapalua, Riviera, PGA West. Scotty Scheffler 2022, 3 wins. It just goes on and on and on. Hot form players. Goes all the way to Hideki, who had no form whatsoever. 2019. So you cannot rule Cam Young out from the Masters. And we had a quick look, didn't we, pre-pod. Barry said, Steve, how's Cam Young got on at Augusta so far? 4 appearances, 2 missed cuts, a 7th and a 9th. He's sitting there at 25-1 right now for the Masters.
He is a factor. I'm just looking at his. I also had him as an inconsistent, not so great putter. Looking at his data golf for the last year, he's only lost strokes gained putting 4 times since the Masters last year.
They said something on the piece about that on Sky on Sunday about the fact he was ranking in the 160s for strokes gained putting, and then recently he's in single digits.
It's a good get onto his data golf page. It's good. The worst he's done is lost half a stroke. That was at the Open last year. At the AT&T Pebble Beach this year, he lost 0.4 of a stroke. Other than that, everything's looking really good. He did lose 1.81 strokes at the Masters last year as part of his miscut. But he's got 2 top 10s there, and that tells you he can play the golf course. So figure out the putting a bit. He's a factor.
Yep. Last 3 appearances, 1st, 2nd and 3rd for greens in regulation. And what do you need to do at Augusta, Paul?
Yeah, pound those greens.
Yeah, he's a player.
Here's a question for you. Would you take right now for the Masters Cam Young or Rory McIlroy?
Oh, Barry.
Cam Young. People don't defend green jackets unless your name is Tiger Woods.
It's a horribly trappy question because we know that history of the defending your green jacket. Rory's got a little bit of the back niggle, might not play a tournament before Augusta. It's a mean little bet.
Yeah, but what the premium you get on the Cam Young price is what? It must be 3 times the price in that bracket.
McIlroy 9 to, and the largest I'm seeing right now is 9-1.
Yeah. Cam's 25s, 28 and 1 or 2 bookies.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, would you back Cam Young or Tommy Fleetwood? I've always wondered if Tommy's got the pop for Augusta.
Yeah.
It's right on the edge.
Yeah, these are all questions we've got.
It's great, isn't it?
Everyone's going to have to seriously ask themselves.
We are 4 weeks away now. It's getting very, very close.
Yeah, it is approaching rapidly.
Barry, I just wanted to also wish you a happy St Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Thank you,
Happy
Steve.
St Patrick's Day, Barry.
Cheers,
and
Paul.
all of our Irish listeners.
Should we talk some golf? Paul, why don't you take it away this week? Are you happy to kick on with the Hainan Classic, and then we'll move on to the Valspar, the second part of the show?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
do it the other way
mix
around this week,
things
just to mix it
shall
up a
we?
bit.
Yeah, so DP World Tour's back. The Hainan Classic after a week's break. Second edition of this event. It was played last year. It was late April last year, so it was post-Augusta. So a bit of a switch in the schedule as the DP World Tour kicks off its Asian swing this week. Slight change in format too, so worth noting, we've dropped from 156 players, which we had last year, to 120. And that's to accommodate, as I understand it, an amateur event that's running alongside the main event for 2 days. It's not a pro-am in that respect, but it sounds like there's just an amateur event that's running alongside it. So I'm expecting to see amateur players alongside the professionals as they're playing the first 2 rounds, and it's being accommodated across 2 separate courses to allow for that amount of players, which we'll go into the courses in a second. Fairly typical, as we've seen it recently, DP World Tour market, with the exception of the likes of Jaden Shaper and Patrick Reed not attending. So that has left Angel Ayora as the favourite for this. He's 11-1 in a place as we record this.
How many times have you backed him this year, Paul?
More than 11 times.
What's going to happen this week, Paul, on a Bombers golf course?
I couldn't go there. Look, he's 11-1 in a spot. He's generally single digits, 7, 8s, 8.5-1, that kind of number. Mate, it's just. Yeah,
Listeners like Nightfaller's Day.
Yeah. So he's the favourite. When you ding 20-1, again, just in a spot, generally 16, 18s. He's been backed overnight. Oliver Lindell, who I did give a lot of thought to, but again, 22-1. There's no bargain there. Look, this is representative of the quality of the field that's out there. So you got to take the prices in context, I suppose. Nathan Kimsey, 25. He's been playing some nice stuff, Kimsey. Eugenio Chakra, 28-1, 30-1 bar those players. Just 120 in the field, as I say, regular cut at 65 and ties, as I understand it. I must say, little frustration as always. There's very, very, very little detail about how this is actually going to play out this week on anywhere out there in the ether, including on the DP World Tour, European Tour website. So let's hope it plays out as I've described it just now. In terms of betting, Ladbrokes call 7 places each way as standard this week, so do check them out. And of course, we've got Bet365 and Betfred. We've both got 8-place options and beyond if you shop about some extended place markets there. So there's lots of additional places available for what is still a relatively short field this week. Now, I mentioned 2 courses. We've got the Blackstone course, which is the venue that we saw last year. And that was also used for the 2011 World Cup back in the day. Now, that's a 7,637-yard par 72. Real Bombers paradise last year. Wide fairways, multi-tiered greens. We're also using the Vintage course, which is one of the, I think there's 11 courses here at Mission Hills. There's an awful lot in this particular part of the world. 7,300 yard par 72. A very different test. It's tree lined. It's a parkland layout. So you've got some blind tee shots, dog legs, heavy bunkering. So 2 contrasting courses. But as I say, as I understand it, the Vintage course is just being used for 1 round, and the Blackstone will be used exclusively over the weekend, as it was last year. Paspalum's been used extensively in both the courses. That's the only real similarity between the 2 tracks, as I can see it. Now, the forecast looks good. We've got warm, sunny conditions forecast, mid-80s Fahrenheit, so around about 30 Celsius in the afternoons, 10 to 12 miles an hour in the afternoons. So in terms of wind, not much there. Some good scoring conditions, I would imagine. Now, Marco Penge won this last year. We were on board, actually, 50-1. A lovely winner. And, of course, Penge went on to have a fantastic season. Won twice more and is now teeing it up regularly over on the PGA Tour this season. So he's not here to defend this year. He reached 17 under last year, 3 shots clear of the rest of the field. Of course, we know with Penge, he's a long hitter. He found 83% of greens. He led that GIR stat last year. So that was his MO, long hitting, hit lots of greens. And in terms of strokes gained, he was 3rd off the tee, 8th for strokes gained approach, and also 3rd for strokes gained putting. So that combination of all different elements was more than enough for him to prove victorious 12 months or 11 months ago as it was. Now, what is evident, if you dig through the raw driving accuracy stats for all of the field, that when they played the Blackstone course, as they did exclusively last year, it's extremely wide, and the driving accuracy stats for the entire field are extremely high. So Penge was mid-pack. He was 33rd of the players who made the cut, and he hit 73% of the fairways over the course of the week. That's huge. Now, you know, we'll often see someone who's mid-pack maybe in the 50s. Depends how tight the course is, of course. You know, playing the Valspar as your event this week, I expect someone who's mid-pack there will be probably in the 40s.
40s. They're only 20 yards wide, and they're dog legs. So, yes. Yeah, it's completely yin and yang this week.
Absolutely. This is completely different. So big, wide fairways. It does encourage the bombers to let loose, and that's certainly what we saw last year. Of course, slight changes I've described. You've got the other course to consider this year, so the dynamics have changed slightly, but I think still generally you're going to have to put your ball out there, I think, to be in with a chance of winning. In terms of incoming form, Penge had finished 3rd at the South African Open a few weeks before, and then a little break for Augusta, and then 26th the week before at the China Open. So he had kind of shown enough and a decent enough form on his reappearance. The other top 5 finishers, Sean Crocker, he'd missed a cut on his last start. Christopher Redtan, 69th on his last start. Rasmus Nergaard Pettersson was 10th on his last outing, and then Martin Kuvra had missed the cut on his last outing. So certainly a bit of a mixed bag form-wise. But again, as I've said, it wasn't a different point in the schedule. So these guys had largely had 3 weeks off and then just come back and played the China Open the week before. So slight change in the dynamics from last year. I'll back 4 this week. I've got 3 similar kind of price, and then I'll go through those, and I've got one that's slightly longer, and then I'll bring you boys in to see where you are before I go through my longer price. It's not overly long. Lots of market movement. I mean, this market has been massively volatile, and we're seeing this increasingly on a Monday now. The players that get backed are getting absolutely hammered in terms of the prices early on a Tuesday or a Monday afternoon. So even compared to some of the prices that I put up yesterday, there's been some massive movement. Anyway, I've backed 3 that are all largely around the same price now, all around about the 28-1 mark. Nicholas Norgard, I backed to 28. Actually, he's one that's been pushed out. He's 30-1 now in places. But Nicholas Norgard back on the DP World Tour now after that year in the US last year. Didn't do too bad. It didn't retain his card, but 5th at the Myrtle Beach was his best result. 14th at the Bermuda Championship mid-November was one of the late season efforts that still wasn't good enough for him to retain his card, but no disgrace. Back on the DP World Tour now. Long driver, fairly inaccurate, seems to fit the bill, certainly for the Blackstone element of this test this week. 4th on tour for driving distance, 14th for strokes gained off the tee. And since he's been back, he hasn't quite hit his straps. And I think, in terms of a player with a high ceiling, that's why I think we're getting this kind of price in this field for Norgard. 36th in Qatar. He only hit 35% of fairways, but 7th for greens in regulation that week. So that's the kind of metric that I think marries up quite nicely with this week. 29th last time out in South Africa. Again, only hit 42% of fairways, but I think he gets away with that kind of waywardness this week, because 42% won't be the number. It'll be 70, 68, 70, 75, whatever. And that means the rest of his game can really come to the fore. High ceiling the most, as I said, largely being ignored in the market, and I'm quite happy to take him and see how he goes this week. Nicholas Norgard. Similar price, and another player with a high ceiling, and certainly not being ignored in the market, is Eugenio Chacra. 28 to 1 also is the best price out there, generally 20s to 22s now, so he is being backed quite considerably. If you fancy Chacra, then that's best to place your bet sooner rather than later, I would say. Now, we know his backstory. He joined LIV just after what was a handful of events back when he just left college. Did win on that circuit, but eventually left to pursue his stated goal of becoming a PGA Tour player. Got his DP World Tour card last year, won in India, you may recall. That was late March for you Biorhythm fans out there. And, of course, he'll be defending his Indian Open title next week, which is another factor I don't mind. I think it kind of helps players relax when they've got something that may be on their mind the following week, and they can just kind of strut their stuff the week before. We shall see. Season started well for Chacra. 3rd at the Alfred Dunhill in November, 28th at the Nedbank, 21st last time out in Puerto Rico. He was playing on an invite over there on the PGA Tour. 21st is, and in the context of what the field have been doing here and the level they've been playing at, I think an alternate PGA Tour event isn't bad form whatsoever. He putted well on the Paspalum over there as well, so that's worth considering. 14th for driving distance, 21st for strokes gain off the tee. Fits the bill for me this week. And another one, again, pretty much the same price, Dan Bradbury. Now, I'm talking disparity and movement with the markets. Bradbury opened at 55s with Bet365, 60s in a couple of places, and it got absolutely hammered. I looked at that price and I thought, wow, that's just absolute madness. He's never, ever going to be, he's never a 50 to 1 or plus shot in this market, having just come off the back of a Joburg Open win. That's been corrected. His 30s now best price, 28s generally, and I think that's actually where he should be in the market. We've already seen Jaden Shaper win back-to-back this wraparound season. We've seen Patrick Reed win twice. In fact, he could have won 3 on the trot if he hadn't lost the playoff in Bahrain. Casey Jarvis won back-to-back recently. So we're seeing this kind of glut of players coming through who are now not scared to go out and win 2 events, to win either in quick succession or... I guess if you try and work through the psyche of it, is it this lure of the PGA Tour cards out there? Is it, but once one player or a couple of players does it kind of give everyone else the confidence to think, well, I don't need to win and then down tools for 6 months. I can win and then win again while my form's high. So it seemed to me that taking Bradbury on this week and seeing if he can do exactly the same is a sound strategy. I mean, he averages 312 off the tee, 7th this season for strokes gained off the tee. So in terms of statistics, that's good enough for me. And again, like these other guys, if he gets another win this week, then he's pretty much wrapped up a PGA Tour card for next season. So huge carrot for Dan Bradbury.
I don't know if Barry's done this. Let me jump in. I don't know if Barry's done this, but I've gone to the predictor model for this week at the Hainan Classic, and I've been as basic as driving distance maximum, greens in regulation maximum. Doesn't seem like a bad trot from what you say. Amazingly, Angel Iora is position 1. T2, Dan Bradbury, Mikael Lindberg. And the other guy you mentioned, Norgard, who's one that I've been sniffing around most of this season, he's tied 12th with Brandon Robinson Thompson. So I'm going to back Dan Bradbury and the Swede Mikael Lindberg.
Yes.
If you go birdie performance add to the mix, he then jumps to number 1 in the predictor model.
Yeah. Statistically, there's lots to like about Lindberg.
Yes.
And, he was on my short list. Brandon Robinson Thompson's on my short list as well. There's some places, some names that you could certainly supplement this week with one or two more. But I can't. Well, I certainly wouldn't put you off Bradbury because I'm there with you. But I couldn't put you off Lindberg if you fancied him. Certainly got the requisite skill set, I would say. So
those are my two, Bradbury and Lindberg. I suppose what I should do as well is cover off Norgard as well, because I know what happens here.
Yeah, I know you've been on him a bit, haven't you? So,
it's a bomber's course, and that's what he does. He just hits it a long way. We just hope that he has a good week with the irons. There's the odd sign with him. I think he's had a couple of top 30 finishes in the last 2.
Yeah, and as I say, when he it was Qatar where he finished 7th for greens in regulation. So if the irons have been working reasonably in the recent past, then I think the key will be how he performs on this vintage course this week. And provided he doesn't have a nightmare on that, I think the rounds that he's got on the Blackstone should be right up his alley.
He had 36th in Qatar. That mentioned the one with the GIR you just mentioned. Also top 30 last time out in South Africa. So he's starting to get over his funk from last year, I think. Yeah,
it takes a little bit of adjustment sometimes, but this is a drop down. Certainly a drop down from what he's been playing.
Yes.
So we shall see. What about you, Barry? You got any fancies in this one?
Kind of doing similar to Steve. Just started out with driving distance stat on the European Tour website and just started running through names and seeing who's playing okay going into it. So I think I've arrived at one of yours, Paul, which you haven't got to yet. So I won't steal that from you because you'll have way further researched this pick than me. Just pulling it from on the pod research. So, but I think I'm going to go back to one I backed a few weeks ago, Hainan Classic. He's not the longest, but playing some nice golf, and I like the combination of odds and a bit of decent form. He won on the Irish Challenge. He won the Irish Challenge last year in Killeen Castle. So just this will kind of feel like maybe an accessible next level up win, kind of a lower grade DP World Tour event. So for that reason, I think I'm going to back him.
Why not? Yeah, it's got some potential, the lad. So see how he goes. I guess the guy that you're talking about is Freddie Schott, who's the other player that I've backed. 66-1 still out there just now as we record. Generally 50s or shorter. Again, another one that's been backed overnight. So again, another one if you do fancy having a bit of Freddie Schott, then probably one worth getting on board sooner rather than later before the prices all go. He won in Bahrain in early February. That's another course that you can get away with being a little bit wayward, or a lot wayward as he was on that particular week. Certainly if you can hit it far enough. He's 9th on tour for driving distance, 18th for strokes going off the tee, 2nd for strokes going off the tee when he won in Bahrain, 4th on that same count again last time out in South Africa. He tied for 14th last time. He closed with a 63. That was the round of the day, the joint round of the week. So that's got to give him some confidence heading into this week's test, which I think really does suit. Been rested since then. And again, another of these players, he gets another win and he'll likely be on the PGA Tour next season. So it's the incentive for these guys to buckle down and just not dying out on their victories is huge nowadays. So, Freddie Schott, Dan Bradbury, Eugenio Chakra, and Nicholas Norgard Muller are my 4 for this week.
The fact you mentioned 63 is the last round you played. That was one of the things that triggered me to go with Guillaume Mondegui. He finished with a 63 in Kenya. Oh, that's a nice round to come off, going back into your next event.
Yeah.
Bit of symmetry there with him and Freddie Shot.
It gives you, just in terms of the players' morale and their, the state of mind, I guess, walking off the course, even if it's just elevated them up from 30th to 15th or whatever the finishing position was, it's positive to take into the next tournament and the next run of events. So, yeah, we'll see how they go.
Should we talk Valspar? By the way, amidst our therapy session earlier on the pod, we didn't mention Sudashanyala Maharaju.
Serious performance. What was it? 200 to 1? You missed the value.
And people say I can't pronounce names on the show.
You just
Team Yellow, mate. He was Team Yellow. He was absolutely steaming up that leaderboard.
Steve just spent the last 6 minutes practicing that off mic while Paul and myself were waffling about a tournament in China.
There'll be a website open on Steve's computer that shows the phonetic pronunciation.
Yeah, exactly. Steve's just using AI,
it just
an AI
falls
voice
off
replicator.
It just falls off the tongue now. He's withdrawn from this week's field, though. He must be enjoying some of those serious hundreds of thousands of dollars that he's earned.
Before we actually didn't mention him much at all. So, quick one mention for Xander, the most non-competitive third place you'll ever see. Just never was a threat. Well, obviously made 3 late birdies, so that kind of connects him more to the top of the leaderboard. But Xander seems to have been figuring his game out over the last few weeks. And Fitzy didn't do a whole lot wrong, but didn't do that one killer thing that you need to do to go win the tournament, which Cam Young did. So Fitzy's dangerous. He's kept that hot run going from last year, like that motivation to make the Ryder Cup team. He's just kept it going.
Yeah, he's a good player.
We've got at the Valspar this week, as Barry's mentioned, Xander and Fitzy basically head the betting with the defending champion Victor Hovland. Then we have the likes of winner this year, Akshay Bhatia. JT does 3 on the trot. Another previous winner this year, Jacob Bridgman, is in the birdie bogey man. I'm unsure why Patrick Cantlay is still 22 to 1 each week. Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Rio Hitsatsuni, Corey Connors, JJ Spawn, US Open champion, Nikolai Højgaard, Ben Griffin, Sahith Theegala, Nick Taylor, and Keegan Bradley. So it's not a bad field up top. It does thin out rather quickly, though. By the time you get to sort of 80, 100 to 1, you're out to the likes of a Jaeger, a Neergaard Peterson, this new lad, Blades Brown, Luke Clanton, players of that ilk. But yeah, it's a decent tournament. They play it at the Copperhead course. It's the last of the 4 tournaments that they play in Florida, the Florida Swing. But I would say that this course is completely different to the 3 that we've seen previously. This is not your atypical Florida golf course. This, to me, is far more Carolina in its lineup and its setup. Most of the holes are doglegs. There are dense trees lining the fairways across all of the course. And as we mentioned earlier, the fairways this week are particularly thin. So PGA National, the Cognizant 28 yards wide, Bay Hill were 30, Sawgrass last week 28, Copperhead this week 20 yards wide. So you're going to see very, very low percentage hit rates for fairways, especially, and Barry will love this, I know that you'd have enjoyed the weekend's play at Sawgrass with greens that were actually releasing, Barry. You're going to see a lot more of that this week, I believe. The course superintendent here does not mind making this a major difficulty type test. To just bring that into full light, Hovland won at 11 under last year, Malnati 12 under, Taylor Moore 10 under. Those are the last three winners here. Not a lot of rain in the forecast. In fact, I don't think there's any for tournament week. There may have been a little drop overnight, tournament Monday into Tuesday. But it didn't look like it was going to amount to much anyway. There hasn't been a lot of rain in the build-up. So I think we're going to see some not only thin fairways, but fairways with plenty of roll on them.
Good.
7,352 yards in length. It's a par 71. It isn't a standard par 71 though, because it still contains 4 par 5s and 5 par 3s. It's a very strange setup, this one. I categorise it as a Carolina type golf course, even though they play it in Tampa Bay, Florida. Technical in terms of its scoring required, and it's medium in length. You cannot overpower this golf course. I think when you look at it, there's water in play quite significantly at 9 of the holes. But it tends to be the kind of course where you're hitting to the same kind of areas, because if you're hitting further than that, you're just taking it into either very thick rough, which this week is 3 3/4 of an inch. It's Celebration Bermuda grass overseeded with ryegrass. Or, because a lot of these holes are dog legs, if you're hitting it too far and you haven't got a shape on the ball, you're basically hitting it into trees. So it tends to bring the driving distance required to win around here down quite significantly. Just to throw that in the mix, the last, what we got here, 9 winners have averaged 25th for driving distance of those that made the cut. So throw the stats in there. 24th for driving distance, 37th for driving accuracy. This is the average position of those that made the cut of the winners. Greens in reg 12th, scrambling 23rd, putting average 6th. Just to look at it, also the strokes gain metrics around here are really, really noticeable. If you take Burns, Taylor Moore, Malnati, Hovland, that's 20 rounds of the winners. Strokes gained off the tee, half a stroke per round. Approach 1.23. Around the green, basically 0.1. So that means tee to green, 1.84 strokes per round of the last 5 winners here. This number here, though, is crazy, boys. 1.74 strokes gained putting. So effectively, you've got a scenario this week where 51% of your strokes gained are tee to green and 49% are made with the putter. We haven't seen a tournament like that so far this year.
Nice and balanced.
Yes, it's interesting because you also get the same balance next week at Memorial Park where they're playing the Houston Open. And if you remember, that's a tournament where Scotty Scheffler literally gets in the mix every single year, but can't get enough strokes on the greens to win.
Yeah.
And someone like a Minwoo Lee or a Stefan Jaeger comes and takes it because they've got a hot putting week. When I look at the strokes gained here, just the trends of the winners, as I do, this is a tricky old test. You could say, well, actually, if so much of this is down to the putter, let's go for hot putter. So I'm looking at my 8-week analysis trends here, and I'm looking at the last 5 winners. None of them ranked in the top 25 for strokes gained putting heading into the week. So you've got to have a hot putter, but it isn't those that have had a hot putter over the last 8 weeks that get into actually win the tournament. It's all very bizarre.
Simmering at 120 in the oven, slow cooking, and then you just die. Then you turn on the burners, right?
Well, put it this way: Peter Malnati and Victor Hovland ranked in the field heading in, 100th and 115th for strokes gained putting.
Yeah, there we go. You're building blind darts, really, then. Trying to pick somebody who's going to go well with the putter this
Sparky week. Yeah.
The only thing I can see statistically that might work is that 3 of the last 5 winners here either ranked in the top 25 for strokes gained on approach or were in the top 25 on their outing before. So there's something there about the fact that their irons have been good for 8 weeks or were good the previous outing. And then maybe that's what unlocks the putter here.
Is there enough... I'm trying to remember if there's a few irons off tees here because of the...
Loads.
Okay, so...
Positional playing golf course, yeah.
So that to me then would kind of connect the dots on looking at people who have had good strokes gained approach or good approach play the last few weeks. Because that tells you their irons are on, which then, will cross over to the tee shots, which are using irons. So Austin Smotherman...
That unlocks the putter.
Number 1 in strokes gained... Yeah, exactly. Not Austin Smotherman, number 1 strokes gained approach your last 8 weeks. Smotherman, Hovland, Koepka, Fitzpatrick, Ford, Paul, Brennan, Hizatsune, Nikolai Højgaard and Xander Schauffele, top 10 there.
Well, you've done my job for me, so you've listed all of my tips.
I don't know why you spend 10 hours doing this, Steve.
Exactly. This is the whole point. I think you're onto something. Well, that's the only way I'm heading for this. That's the way I'm dealing with it. Just to get the agronomy out there, because I know we've got a lot of agronomy beasts on here. The greens this week: Tiff Eagle Bermuda grass with Poa trivialis overseed. So we've had this Poa trivialis overseed, if you remember now, both for Bay Hill and last week at Sawgrass, and we've got it for the 3rd week running here at Copperhead. But yeah, you're not far away, Barry. I've basically looked at strokes gained approach and used that as a metric. Also, just winning prices around here. We do get a distinct mix. Now, Hovland was a bit strange because he was an elite player that was in absolutely hideous form. I think he'd missed the cut on his last 3 outings in signature events. Yeah, he'd missed the cut at Sawgrass, he'd missed the cut at Bay Hill, he'd missed the cut at Torrey Pines. He was in hot form, wasn't he, old Victor? He took this out at 50-1. So there could have been something in there that said, well, actually, his approach play was still good because I think he ranked 4th for strokes gained on approach heading in. The rest of his game was diabolical. And if you wanted to take a name at a big price, a name that had also finished 3rd here in his the previous time he'd come to the course, there was something in that for Hovland. But in terms of winning prices, 50-1 Hovland, 250-1 Malnati, good one picking him out. Taylor Moore was 70-1. I think he was more than pickable. Burns 25-1, Burns 80-1. If you average those through, that's 135-1 for the past 5 renewals. If you go all the way back to Jimbo Furyk 2010, that tells you something about this, doesn't it? Jim Furyk winning. I think he's a 2-time winner around here. 75-1 is the overall winning odds if you look at the average. So I've gone down the route of either a couple of elites at this 25-1, 28-1 mark, and then players a slightly bit deeper. Because we have seen, of course, a lot of these 50-1 and a bigger winners recently. That was ended last week with 35-1 on Cameron Young, but in the context of the players, that was kind of the biggest winning price you were going to get anyway. I have gone for, I think there's going to be some debate here. I've gone for 2 old-time elite players this week. And I'm praying that at least one of them clicks and gets in the mix. On a golf course where people don't hit a lot of fairways and it's all about decent approach and decent putting, that to me, compared to Sawgrass last week, where if you're missing fairways, as we saw, there was a lot of water in play. This course to me sings from the rafters to be favourable to a player like Jordan Spieth. So I managed to get 22 to 1 extended places with Ladbrokes, 10 places in fact, on Jordan Spieth, who actually, when you look under the surface, his approach play is decent of late. Last week at Sawgrass, he lost his typical half a stroke per round off the tee. I expect there were some water balls in there. But he also ranked 8th for approach, 16th for around the green, and 18th for tee to green. He's also in the top 10 for putting across the last 8 weeks, across my analysis. So decent approach play at the moment. And as we know with Jordan, he can putt lights out. He has won at Copperhead. He's also won 5 times in his career on Bermuda grass base greens. The most prolific winner on Bermuda grass in this field is Justin Thomas. Wouldn't be surprised if one of you are on him. So I've gone for Spieth at 22 to 1, 2 points each way. And the other one I've gone for, I'm taking a deep breath on this. I've gone with Bet365, 8 places each way, 2 points each way on Brooks Koepka. You look at Koepka, and we've always said this with him, he's a big game hunter. He wants to win majors, but I'm not quite so sure if he's in that headspace at the moment. I think Brooks is on this course of redemption and actually, validating himself by winning a PGA Tour tournament would be a big deal for Brooks. And if he does that on an outing just before the Masters, even better. Now, we know with Brooks, he's playing this week and he will play at Houston next week because that's a course that he's had a hand in actually designing.
Yeah.
But you just look at Brooks and you even look at what he's done on LIV. 2023, he won in Orlando in Florida the week before he went to the Masters. He also finished 5th in Tulsa the week before winning the PGA Championship in 23. 24, he then won in Singapore a few weeks prior to the PGA Championship. And in 2025, and it was his worst year as a pro by a million miles, the motivation had completely gone. But there was one bright spark last year on LIV. He was second in Singapore, and that was 4 weeks prior to the Masters. So the timing works for him. The course works for him, in my opinion. Tough, classical, well, not classical, but Carolina, tree line, but also major tough. I can see Brooks going well this week at 25 to 1. I've got 8 places each way with Bet365. His strokes gain numbers and his ball striking numbers so far this year have been absolutely top draw. The putters totally let him down. But there was a little bit of a roll, wasn't there, across the weekend at Sawgrass? And I don't think Sawgrass is ever going to be a course that suits Brooks Koepka. This week is far more up his street, in my opinion. So call me sentimental, call me romantic, call me stupid. I've gone for Spieth and Koepka up top. 22 to 1 and 25 to 1. So where are you guys chiming in, Paul? Where are you coming in?
Well, I've backed Koepka as well, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I think he's playing some decent stuff. 9th at the Cognizant, 13th last week, as you said, at the Players. And the strokes gain stats that came out of his performance last week were pretty eye-catching. 4th for approach and 9th for tee to green. He was top 10 for greens and regulation across both of those efforts. So he is percolating. Something you said to me, it was either in one of your previews or you may have been in conversation.
Was it over 8 points?
We may have been a couple deep at that point. But yeah, it's about Brooks and the fact that he's not in the signature events. No. And he's got to work to earn his place in those top events. You know, he's come back to the tour. He's playing the regular events. He got a spot into the Players Championship, which is a big...
which he earned?
Yeah, no, he absolutely earned that. But in terms of finding his way into the signature events, that's a hurdle he has to overcome himself. And that can only be done with big results. So whereas we used to see Brooks, as you've described him, as a major performer, a guy who would peak and only be interested in the majors, I suspect that getting a regular event under his belt would be...
don't you think I could see it? Do you see that, Barry? I actually think for Brooks, winning a PGA Tour event as quickly as possible has to be his real focus. It's almost like redemption.
Yeah, or validation.
Yeah, validation. That's a better
that
word.
He does.
Yeah.
It's almost like he does to rubber stamp his being present on tour and playing on tour. He kind of needs to prove it to himself, to prove to the other players that he belongs there, and he's not there because he's paid a fine to come back. So
he's paying his penance. He's paid his penance. A win would validate that. Yeah, I get that.
I think there'd be something in there motivation-wise to do that, get that win, validate his return to the tour. Just his stats are unbelievable. He's 5th in strokes gained tee to green. Now, that's just over 13 rounds so far this year, but you'd rather that on your side than not. So the bet this week is, does the putting light up to the level that it needs to be at for this. I think he'll see the Valspar as it's a prestige win because it's a ball striker's course. There's some there's a good there's a good cachet to the course that it's a tough one. So I think that might trigger.
It's his wheelhouse, isn't it?
A little bit. And trigger might trigger a little bit of extra motivation, like, this is a tough course to win at. You gotta be playing golf to do it rather than just bombing it around the place. So there's a lot of really good arguments there. It'll be interesting because we all know the Brooks that was there when he was just murdering majors for fun. He was a really good putter back then. So you don't. I don't feel like that ever leaves you if you were a great putter. I think you can get that back.
I think, though, and this is another conversation that goes on and on and on. It's endless. But I genuinely think with Brooks, he finds the putter when he knows that his tee to green game is there and his approach plays crisp. All of a sudden, the putter kicks it.
Somebody should show him his stats and how he's hitting it on approach this year.
I bet he's aware. I think he's changed his putter as well recently. He knows that the putter's the problem. It just needs to click. He was rolling a couple in across the weekend at the Players, but it then went horribly wrong with a double on the last, I believe, to take him out of the top 10. But you can see momentum building. And you just know that he's 100% mentally engaged now. He's committed. Which he hasn't been on live for years.
Yeah.
And that makes him a dangerous player in my mind in this market.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think you're right. I have backed another one at the same kind of price, so you just mentioned them, so I guess your price is all going to go longer from here. I saw enough from Justin Thomas last week to back him. You've already mentioned that he leads the field in terms of Bermuda wins. Really positive performance last week, I thought. Obviously coming back from his injury, but to finish 8th and to produce the numbers that he did, 7th for greens in regs, 7th for strokes gained approach, 9th for strokes gained putting. Off the tee wasn't great, but as we've described here, there's a lot of players are going to miss a lot of fairways this week. I think that puts him probably in the mid-pack for that, as long as he's not so blatantly flagrant from off the tee that he's making, that's costing him a lot of strokes. Outstanding record here as well. 2 top 10s, 3rd, 2nd last year. World-class player that seems to be coming back. And I think he could feature this week, Justin Thomas.
He was in a head-to-head last year in the end, wasn't he, with Victor? I think he was 4 shots clear at one point, coming down into the snake pit.
Yeah.
He did impress me last week. And this is... I'm just looking at the predictor variables. If you just look at where he plays well over the last 5 years, it tends to be more shorter to medium-length golf courses than long golf courses. Because as we always say with Justin, he's got a destructive drive in him. And on longer courses, he has to go full tilt a lot more. This is more positional, which makes sense with JT. He was 4th after 54 holes last week. There's something in here as well, and I know people go, I can't believe. I mean, I do use data golf a lot more now, so before people shoot me down, I do think there's something this week about players that have had a good start to the year, and you can see that within their official world golf rankings. So forget about Hovland, but even Malnati, he jumped 54 spots in the year prior to winning this. Taylor Moore had jumped 18. He was around the 100 mark on the official world golf rankings. Burns, when he won this the first time, had jumped from 154 to 94. So 60 spots prior to winning this. And even Adam Hadwin, go all the way back to 2017. He jumped 93 spots from 191 to 98. So there's something in there about players around that 100 mark and players that have actually gained a decent amount of world positions with their finishes prior to getting here. That takes me to 3 more players. And I know I'm the only one that's going to be on him out of us 3. But I just have to stick with Sahith Theegala. There's something there. There's something good on a course where inaccuracy off the tee isn't a killer as much as it would be at Sawgrass. I think there's something in Sahith this week. I was expecting a bigger price, but as we said, there isn't a lot of depth to this field. I took 1.5 points each way, 35-1 with Bet365, 8 places each way as ever. For me, I always pick the 8 places on their additional each way extra markets. Sahith Theegala, he finished. Where did he? I think he was in the top 10 here on his first time he ever played here. Yeah, 7th here in 22. Trio 67s that week highlighted a player who theoretically should be well suited to the Copperhead course. I think this place suits his game down to the grounds, Theegala. So I'm on him at 35s. I'm also on the Japanese sensation. I've been on him a couple of times. I know that Barry was on him earlier this year at far bigger prices. But again, I think this says more to his current form and the lack of depth when it comes to his price that was available. I'm on Ryo Hitsatsune. He was actually in the top 5 here last year from memory. So that's good with Rio. He's just playing sensational golf. He's playing absolutely sensational golf, Hitsatsune. And he's interesting because he's just in sort of this, from a world ranking perspective, he's 61st in the official golf world rankings. He's never been in the world's top 50. If he wants to be playing at the Masters in 4 weeks' time, he's got this week at the Valspar and he's got next week at Houston to get into the top 50 and get a late invite to the Masters. So I've got Ryo Hitsatsune. I'm trying to think, did I get 40-1 with him, Paul, with Betfred? Is that right?
Yeah, he's, again, another one that's been really popular in the market, though, isn't he? He's been backed heavily. Lots of people on the same wavelength by the looks of it.
Hitsatsune, Theegala, Koepka, Spieth. I've got one more at 66s. So are there some players you guys want to come in that are in between 40s and 66s? Or?
No, I've got one at triple digits.
Barry?
Nice, Paul. I'm on Hitsatsune again.
You are?
Give him a chance for redemption after flapping away the place at the end of last week. So, look, the just makes all the sense in the world from even looking at ball striking. He's 26th in total driving, 3rd in greens and reg. He's top 8 there for strokes gained approach in your rolling tracker. Yeah, it's just
everything for greens and reg last week.
Yeah, he's very good at that. He does not like missing greens. So
he just can't putt. But then he gained 4.8 strokes here on the greens last year, and he wasn't putting particularly brilliantly on arrival. So
this Perfect then. Absolutely couldn't ask for anything better. So let's just assume we've both thrown a blind dart and hit the on switch for his putting this week, and we've got a winner.
Now, I know there's a lot of data geeks here and people that will listen to this and they come to us for context and whatever, but there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of experts out there that talk strokes gained and modelling or whatever. And I know I'm quite late to the party here. But Austin Smotherman has been unbelievable this year when you just look at how he plays golf. Now, just taking really basic PGA Tour statistics for the season. He's 20th for driving accuracy. He's 20th for total driving. So he's not just accurate. He's relatively long as well. I think he's kind of sort of 60s, 70s in the driving distance charts. He's 8th for greens in regulation. He's first for strokes gained on approach of everybody on the PGA Tour. And he's 6th for strokes gained tee to green so far. Bearing in mind we're in mid-March. So I think is it 9 events in, something like that? So it's quite it's not statistically, it's not a huge amount, but it's fairly chunky. Now, just to put him into the company he's sharing in terms of that tee to green number, 6th. Above him, Rory McIlroy, Siwoo Kim, Colin Morikawa, Brooks Koepka. Pretty serious names.
Yep.
25th here in 2022, 36th here in 2023 on his 2 appearances. So he's au fait with the course and he's played well. He was 13th for strokes gained putting here in 2023. Now, the thing with Smotherman is, if he plays just to the level that he's been playing at tee to green, and he even gains something along the lines of half a stroke per round with the putter, he's going to be in contention. That's just the data of it. If he got anywhere near to being 13th here for strokes gained putting and keeps the same level of tee to green performance that we've seen since the start of the year together, he wins the tournament. I'm on him at a point each way, 66-1 with Betfred, 8 places each way on Austin Smotherman. So that's my 5. Smotherman. Oh, by the way, he's also just vaulted up the world rankings this year. Just to get in there. He's been first round leader 2 times in his last 3 events. He was first round leader last week at Sawgrass, wasn't he? Or tied. I know that he have a putt to win it outright on the Friday morning, 15-footer or something. He's finished 8th at PGA West and 2nd at PGA National before he was finishing 13th last week. So Smotherman, Hitsatsuni, Tigala, Koepka, Spieth. They're my 5. Right, any others? I know, Paul, you've got a long shot.
Yeah, longer price. I've backed Billy Horschel at. I backed him 100-1 with 8 places. There's a little bit more out there if you go with the bog standard.
I can see this.
Yeah, he's still quite lightly raced since his return from injury, but there's been some bright enough sparks. 11th in Utah, 13th last time out at Bay Hill caught my eye. Twice a winner at Wentworth, and I guess you could draw some correlation with that and Carolina type golf courses in general. 12th in 2024, 4th last year, so there's some good form on this track as well. So for a 3-figure shot who could sneak into the paying places, I thought that was worth taking on.
He must be burning. He missed the Players.
Oh, yes.
And this is the point with him. He must be burning the fact that there must be a lot of motivation in him to start hitting his straps, Horschel. So I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, must be buoyed by West Ham's renaissance as well.
Any more for you, Baron?
I went with Hovland again. It's a redemption week. Just give the guys a chance to pay me back. They just to feel guilty about their finishes last week. So just let them have a chance. Just a yellow card. The Smotherman bet's good. Interesting, Steve. He's number 1 on tour this year for strokes gained approach. Koepka's 3. Yeah, it's just Hopefully our plan of attack this week pays off. It feels good.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, what can you say? It's one. This to me is one of the hardest tournaments. Just looking from a data perspective, this is one of the hardest tournaments of the year to actually pick the winner.
Is that because so much more relies on putting?
Yeah. By the way, this was killing me. I was talking about the top 6 strokes going tee to green. I only mentioned McIlroy, Siwoo Kim, Morikawa and Koepka. I'm thinking, well, there's got to be one more because Smotherman's 6th. That player is Tommy Fleetwood, who jumped 11 spots last week. Interesting with Fleetwood, wasn't it? He was first for tee to green last week at the Players. Couldn't make a putt for Toffee, as ever. His game's warming for the Masters as well. We're not going to see him pre-Masters either. That's his last appearance. He won't play either of the Texas events. Interesting. So many questions to be answered. I think that's us done, isn't it, chaps?
Yes, all good, I think.
Good here.
If you've made it this long, listeners, don't forget Bet365 Majors Competition 2026. We are getting closer and closer to the first tee-off at the Augusta, so start getting your teams in. I will put a link to the rules and how you can enter in the podcast description. Also, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course, and please press that 5-star button on Spotify if you're a Spotify user. Paul, what you got next week?
It's the Indian Open. Akshay Bhatia is coming over to play, apparently.
Nice. Is it that real beast of a golf course?
Yes, yeah, the crazy golf one, yeah.
I saw Rory McIlroy the other week on one of his interviews saying he has to play that course professionally before he retires. He's absolutely adamant he wants to play that.
I imagine it's a lot of fun. Just take a lot of balls with you.
And in the States, we've got the Houston Open. So I'm looking forward to that one. I think that's one that we can get close to the winner of. And a course, and you did mention him, Paul, he won in Hainan. That's the kind of course that Marco Penge would do well at. Absolute bomber's paradise.
Yes, nappy factor Marco Penge.
So we'll build that into our plans for next week. Hope your tips go well, boys.
Yeah, best luck, boys.
You too, boys.
Hope the tips go and your bets go well. Listeners, back next week. Don't forget, of course, please send in your 5-star reviews. See you next week.
If you like betting on golf, but everyone that you back misses the cut, get some experts involved with all the stats and the tips and so much more. 'Cause it's the golf betting system, the golf betting system, it's the golf